across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome, folks. This is a story of our times. It's just come to my attention, so I'm going to busk this. But Vikram Digwar, a Sikh, has been found guilty at Southampton Crown Court of the murder of university student Henry Nowak, who he stabbed to death with a Sikh kirpan ceremonial knife. Now, this was an altercation down in Southampton as Henry made his way back from a night out at a nightclub, apparently. Some kind of altercation, and Mr. Digwar claimed to the police that he'd responded because he had been subjected to racist abuse by Henry Nowak. As a result, as Henry lay on the ground, bleeding to death, literally bleeding to death, the cops handcuffed him and treated him as if he was the aggressor, as if he was the one who'd done wrong. Henry died, and Vikram Digwar's claim that he was subjected to racist abuse was, as the judge put it, a wicked lie. The question is, why did the police so automatically believe him? We all know why, don't we? We all know why. This is wokery gone mad. The cops always believing the people of colour, always believing the white people are the bad guys, the villains, the criminals. Police, Hampshire and Isle of Wight police have apologised. Deputy Chief Constable Robert France saying, "First and foremost, this is an unspeakable tragedy, and I cannot begin to imagine what Henry's family have suffered. Well, they've suffered a lot worse because of the way your officers behave. The guy's bleeding to death on the ground, and they handcuffed him because apparently, according to his attacker, his murderer, he was a racist. Nothing worse than racism, is there? Always a racist. Let him die." This is outrageous, folks. I've had enough, haven't you? This ought to be a wake-up call to a nation in woke decline. We've got to do something about this. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Right, let's return to the rest of the schedule. So good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 powerhouse hours of views, news and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, May the 28th. Here's what's coming up. Great news for polygamists. For every one of your wives, Labour's gormless government will hand you nearly 120 quid a week in benefits. So, if you've been smart enough to tie the knot with 4 spouses, for example, apparently that's a popular number in the world of the wonderful world of polygamy, that could add up, courtesy of the state, to a bumper 78 grand a year. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. Marrying multiple times has been illegal in Britain since 1604. I'll repeat that. 1604 is when multiple marriage, polygamy, became illegal, and has been ever since. But if a guy gets hitched again and again abroad and then moves to the UK, he can carry on polygamizing and claim generous welfare handouts for his many spouses. How mad is that? On the outside chance that they ever regain power, the Tories have vowed to scrap this nonsensical insanity. But why are polygamists even allowed to practice their weird way of life in a country, as in Britain, where it is supposed to be against the law, let alone giving them benefits? Stop the world, folks. I want to get off. It's gone mad. 0344 499 1000. In other news, Labour relic Alan Milburn's new report on Britain's lost work-class generation makes shocking reading. 1 in 6 young Brits will be on the dole by 2030 as the vast majority of jobs go to migrants. And Milburn blames the woeful welfare state, which he says is incentivising inactivity. It sure as hell is. Meanwhile, a record number of children are claiming to suffer from mental illness. What a mess. 03444991000. Also, on today's action-packed agenda, actress Helen Mirren is verbally assaulted in the street by a screaming anti-Semite, calling her a Zionist. I'm going to say it. We're not supposed to say this word, but you have to know what she was subjected to. He called her a Zionist bitch. And Helen Mirren's furious husband put this racist, this Jew hater in his place. But for the horrendous crime of standing with Israel, Helen Mirren was subjected to this anti-Semitic hatred. Is Jew hatred in Britain spiralling out of control? 03444991000. Plus, the scourge of ludicrously lenient sentencing that ignores traumatised victims and makes a mockery of British justice. How bungling Boris Johnson ruined Britain by welcoming an astonishing 4.2 million low-skilled legal migrants into the country and causing untold economic and social problems for the foreseeable future, including now. Nice work, Bojo. Along the way, he destroyed the long-suffering British public's faith in the Conservatives, who will struggle to overcome their migration treachery. Will you trust Kremi's crew ever again? 03444991000. Also today, the weirdest tennis outfit ever serves up controversy at the French Open, and later on we will take your phone calls. 03444991000. There's lots to talk about today, so get on the phone and let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Let's go straight over first to my very first guest. He is the leader of the Advance UK Party, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Good to see you.
Good to have you on the show, as always. Now, I was going to go straight into Alan Milburn's shocking report into the state of our workless, lost young generation. But something has cropped up, and I need to get your take on it. This is shocking. A young university student called Henry Nowak was on his way home from a night out at a nightclub where there was some kind of altercation, and he was attacked by a guy called a Sikh, a 23-year-old Sikh man called Vikram Digwa, who claimed that 18-year-old Henry had racially abused him, and he lost his temper, hence the altercation. He stabbed him to death with a Sikh kirpan ceremonial knife. As Henry lay on the pavement, literally bleeding to death, the cops turned up. And as soon as they were told that Henry had subjected this Sikh guy to racial abuse, they started treating Henry as if he was the criminal. They handcuffed him while he was bleeding to death. And he went on to bleed to death. Today, Hampshire and Isle of Wight cops are full of apologies, but what an absolute disgrace and a snapshot of the madness, of the wokery that is coursing through the toxic veins of this country. This is insane.
It's completely insane. And I think, as you said in your opening remarks, it's yet more evidence of a progressive discrimination in our criminal justice system, which effectively assumes that if you're white, you're effectively the perpetrator. And if you're from an ethnic minority, you need the protection of the law, even if you are the criminal. And in this case, you know, it's a shocking crime. I don't care if Novak was racist in his comments. Of course, that's not socially acceptable.
But he wasn't. He wasn't.
Okay.
This guy, even if he had been. The point is, this Sikh made it up. It was dismissed as wicked lies by the judge, because that's what it was. He lied because he knew, as so many do, if you tell the cops that somebody's being racist towards me, you're in the clear and they'll go for the alleged racist. Henry did nothing of the sort. That makes this even worse.
But absolutely it does. But even if he had said most obnoxious things. They are just words. There is no excuse. And this comes back again to the two-tier criminal justice system. There's no excuse, as the police may thought they would have had, by going after the white guy simply because he said some bad words. You know, as you say, the whole system is topsy-turvy. And it comes out of the Equalities Act. I think one of the other stories you might be discussing is how transgender people can get straight through on a hotline to HMRC. The fact that there's a hotline to HMRC is absurd in my view.
Yeah, agreed.
But, you know, that progressive discrimination is being afforded to them as well. There's a protective blanket and a promotion in this country of all things from an ethnic minority, from ethnic minorities, minority religious beliefs, sexual preferences. They get all protected and promoted. And the majority, which is, the majority typically define the democracy, the majority have their interests set aside. And it's happening in the criminal justice system, which is why we have a two-tier criminal justice system. It's broken.
I'll tell you something, Ben. These coppers who treated this poor kid like this, his lungs were filling with blood. He could barely breathe because of this. He was begging these officers for help. They ignored him and handcuffed him.
Well,
and placed him under arrest. I think these coppers, they deserve to be prosecuted.
They have to be prosecuted, absolutely. They're culpable in this young man's death.
It's absolutely disgusting. It's a disgrace. And those coppers and that entire police force should hang their heads in shame. We're going to be coming back to this story throughout the show, folks, but I want to hear what you think about it. 03444991000. Well, let's go to Alan Milburn, that Labour relics, shocking report today about a lost generation of jobless young Brits. He says that by 2030 at this rate, because of our vastly exploding welfare state, that 1 in 6 young Brits will be on the dole with no chance of employment. And he also says that the vast majority of jobs that are available go to migrants. So since 2020, the increased number of jobs that go to young white Brits, indigenous Brits if you like, has gone up by 1%. The number of jobs that's gone to migrants from outside the EU has gone up more than 330%. It's great.
And of course, he's got a point, Kevin, but, and this applies to Tony Blair as much as it applies to Milburn, all these criticisms they're making of the current government, the policies that we are now reaping the whirlwinds of disaster from are policies set in train, regulations, constitutional changes made by Milburn and Blair. This is just the manifestation of what they put in train 30 years ago.
Exactly.
It's so rich now for them to be coming out of the woodwork and saying, well, this is wrong, that's wrong. These guys screwed the country. They're the ones who should be taken to task over it, as much as Starmer, as much as Boris Johnson, Cameron, Theresa May, all the rest of them. Yeah. They're all guilty.
They're guilty for bringing the country. We had Blair yesterday, Milburn today. These guys, they're like a bad smell you can't get rid of.
They are a bad smell.
Here is Alan Milburn preening himself before the press today as he published his... it is a shocking report, to be fair, but here he is.
One of the most striking findings in this review is that 84% of NEET young people that we surveyed said they wanted a job or they wanted to be in training. So I do not accept the caricature of a generation that is not interested in work. This is a generation that wants the chance to work.
Yeah, you say, Milburn, you say. At one point, the media there pressing him at the conference this morning, they were saying, well, you know, this is down, as you just implied, Ben, saying, oh, it's down to Labour policies, isn't it? And he got really furious. He said, yes, is that really, you're going to say that? It's down to...
But it's true.
Down to Rachel. Rachel did this, Rachel did that, and then he went, really? Really? Yes, Alan.
Well, it was
really. Yes, Alan. Answer the damn question. You lot.
Absolutely. It was Tony Blair and Alan Milburn's lot that dumbed down university degrees, effectively sending young people into the workforce with no ability to actually work. It was them that created the Equalities Act that requires progressive discrimination in favor of foreigners and minorities. We just discussed it. It was them that did that. So setting aside domestic, if you like, white native British people from the workforce, giving jobs over to foreigners. It was their lot that effectively put the architecture in place which prohibits us, the Human Rights Act, the ECHR and everything else, prohibits us from protecting our borders and then requires us to treat those who've broken into our country as if they're royal guests. All of the architecture that we're suffering the consequences of now, all that architecture was put in place by these people. And Milburn and Blair have absolutely no right to be talking about it. None. They should hang their heads in shame and they should be called out about it. I saw people on X this morning, people from our side of the debate saying, maybe it's time to bring Blair back. It is not time to bring Blair back. He's a lying hound. He's just smelt that the coffee... the winds are not playing in his favour. He's changed his tune. He's the devil of British politics. If there's an arch devil in this country, in British politics, it's Tony Blair.
And who was the sorcerer's assistant? Alan Milburn. Let's move on to that hotline you were talking about. The question is why are trans people getting priority treatment with a special hotline to the tax people at HMRC? I would go on to say apparently they get access to the same special VIP lines as the royal family, and indeed people like Angela Rayner who got this hotline as well. So I would say, why on earth are trans people getting priority treatment? Why do the royals get priority treatment? Why do people like Angela Rayner get priority treatment? Why can't they wait on the phone like the rest of us? Two-tier Britain yet again.
Again, absolutely wrong. And clearly, the least Angela Rayner could have done was avail herself of the opportunity to clarify her own tax position. She had this hotline and she still got it wrong. And she's not the only one. It seems that even having a hotline doesn't allow these people to get their tax returns right. But of course, what we're seeing here is precisely that two-tier approach. Progressive discrimination, in this case, it's the establishment, the entitled establishment, together with, for some reason that's absolutely beyond me, people who self-identify as being the opposite sex to what they genuinely are, because they need protection. Why do they need protection? Filing tax returns.
Well, yeah, that's my point. Yeah, but what is it about trans people that means they have to have special priority treatment from the tax man? That is ridiculous. Frankly, I'd make King Charles wait on the phone like the rest of us. Let's have an equal society. You know,
the only telephone line that matters when it comes to HMRC is HMRC's ability to get hold of you. And I'm sure every viewer knows that when HMRC wants to get hold of you, there's no problem. They get hold of you.
Ben, I really don't want to go into that topic. I could talk about that for a long, long time. Trust me. Barely a day goes past when I don't get a lovely letter from our friend, the tax man. Ben, really great to talk to you. Thanks for coming on, as always. Ben Habib there, the leader of the Advance UK political party. Very keen to hear what you think about this shocking case of this poor kid, 18-year-old student, university student, Henry Nowak, stabbed to death by a 23-year-old Sikh called Vikram Digwar. The cops turn up. The poor Henry is bleeding to death on the pavement. He literally choking on the blood going into his lungs. And the coppers, because this Sikh guy said, oh, he's subjected me to racist abuse, they start treating Henry like the criminal. They handcuff him while he is dying. I mean, come on. I think that, you know, the Hampshire and Isle of Wight police have referred themselves to the IOPC. You know, the cops love to mark their own homework. I think the coppers who did that, they need to be arrested themselves and they need to be prosecuted. Do you agree? 0344 499 1000. Next up, when we come back, we're going to talk about polygamy, marrying many different wives, men who marry multiple times. It's illegal in this country, has been since 1604. And yet, if you do it abroad and you move here with your many, many wives, the government will give you 120 quid each a week for them in benefits. So if you've got 4 wives, apparently that's a very popular number in the wonderful world of polygamy, you'll make 78 grand a year. That courtesy of you, me, and all the British taxpayers, the long-suffering British taxpayers who are supposed to fund these people living what should be an illegal lifestyle. We will talk about that insanity next.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense. Talk Breakfast on Talk. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about polygamy, if we must. It's been illegal here in Britain since 1604, so multiple marriage is very much against the law. And yet, if you do so abroad and then you move here with your many wives, not only is that permitted, but the government will give you very generous welfare payments for each one of them. Unbelievable. Let's talk to journalist Khadija Khan. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Khadija.
It's always a pleasure to be on the show, Kevin.
Right, this one just blew my mind. The Tories are getting their knickers in a twist about it, and they well should, in my view. Polygamy, multiple marriages, marrying multiple spouses. Obviously, it's nearly always men marrying wives. It's been illegal in Britain, quite rightly in my view, since 1604. And yet, if you come from one of the countries where it's illegal, you know, Algeria, Cameroon, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Pakistan, Bhutan, and so on and so forth, these countries. If you come from one of these countries where it's legal and you bring your wives, you're permitted to carry on with your polygamist lifestyle here in Britain. I mean, I would have questions about that. I think if you want to settle in a country, you should adhere to the norms of the culture of that country. So I would have qualms about even allowing these people to carry on being polygamists in this country. But okay, you know, live and let live and all that. Then you learn that this government is handing polygamist husbands, £120, £119.50 for each of their wives in welfare. Now, the popular number, apparently, in the wonderful world of polygamy is 4 wives. If you have 4 wives and you claim for each one of them, some husbands, some lucky polygamist husbands, will be in line for £78,000 a year. This is insanity, isn't it?
Yes, it is unfair. It is antithetical to everything we hold dear as a society. I mean, this is an open secret in the UK. Polygamous welfare claims are made by predominantly Muslim families, and this practice typically involves immigrants who legally entered into polygamous marriages overseas in Sharia-compliant countries where this practice is religiously sanctioned and legal. Now, it's clear that Labour has not legislated any new laws regarding polygamous, marriages and how they should be treated under the law of the land. It is the legacy benefit rules established in 1988, which automatically receive annual inflation increases. I think the issue that right now we have is that this practice is an exception that has been given to a particular group of people, predominantly from Muslim communities. Mm-hmm. It is not compatible with British laws and British culture. It is unfair and discriminatory toward other people who are not allowed to claim any benefit with multiple wives or partners, yet successive governments, including conservatives, they have been failed to address this issue for far too long. And we all believe that British welfare state should reflect British values of equality,
Absolutely.
Fairness, tolerance, and respect for the laws. However, in this case, it seems like the exceptions have been granted at the expense of everything our politicians, they claim to care about.
You grew up in Pakistan. You're from Pakistan, where polygamy is allowed. What's your personal view of polygamy as a lifestyle? When I was in the States, I went up to Utah where the Mormons practice it, and they were nice people, but it was a very rancid syndrome that I witnessed up there. I didn't like it at all. It seemed all wrong, and by the way, the wives are all at each other's throats. It wasn't nice at all. What's your personal view, having witnessed it as a child of Pakistan?
It is a sham ritual. It is permissible in Islam, and in Muslim societies, it is very much welcomed and embraced by Muslim men. They see it as an opportunity to have multiple wives. And yes, there are certain conditions, they have to provide them. They have to, seek permission from first wife. But it is very rare that these conditions are met when the multiple wives are taken by a single man. So it's a sham ritual. It's a practice where women's rights are trumped and they are exploited in the name of religion, in the name of culture. Women, they apparently have no right in these marriages. They can be divorced if they are found disobedient to whatever they are dictated to by their husbands. So growing up in Pakistan, I have seen many people, they are very much interested in having multiple wives. Some, they don't do it due to their circumstances, but those who can, they do it. But the outcomes of these marriages socially are really drastic, especially for women and children, because many children, in many cases, first wives and the children with first wife, they are driven out of the homes because second wives, as you just mentioned, that there is hardly ever, any reconciliation among the wives. So one woman, her children, they were thrown out of the house, and then this continuous, practice. It's a vicious cycle, in my opinion, in terms of exploitation of women.
Let's call this what it is. In my view, I think polygamy is sexist. You never hear of women with multiple husbands, do you? It's men.
I think there is no other. There is no other way you can describe it.
It's extreme sexism, if you ask me.
Yes, it is a misogynistic ritual that a man is allowed to have multiple wives, and there are rarely, any compulsions and obligatory duties upon men in terms of dealing with the wives and the children's. Men, they take it for granted because there are, certain traditions in Islam in which, prophets' wives, they complained against, the finances. They were not given the finances to run the household. So they complained about it, and the God, the most merciful God, just instructed his prophet that tell them that they would be punished for that. It is seen as a kind of disobedience on the part of wives to demand for anything.
It's demeaning. I think it's demeaning to women. As I say, I witnessed it.
It is indeed.
And as you say, among the wives, there's always jostling. There's a hierarchy, and they all want to become the number one wife. And if they don't quite make it, they get kicked out. If they do make it, the former number one wife gets kicked out. They're treated like cattle. And I don't think that this country, Britain, should be sponsoring it. I mean,
yes, and I want to mention this one thing, which is very important, that when we make accommodations and exceptions for religious and cultural fanatics, we do it at the expense of the most vulnerable people, children and women. Yep. I mean, forced marriage, child marriage, FGM, they are crimes in this country. However, people, they do it anyway. They try to subvert the laws. They try to arrange these kind of things overseas. And, the people who are at the risk of being exploited, we have to think about them before, taking care or catering the sensibilities of religious fanatics.
Yeah, I'll tell you, something should be done about this. This is mad. They just, by the way, this just had a 5% pay rise, so you can now get more for your wives than you could a week ago. Unbelievable. Khadija, fantastic to have you on the show. As always, come on again soon. That's Khadija Khan, journalist. I mean, what's going on? Polygamy is just like demeaning to women. It's sexist. It's a misogynist system, and our government is giving these guys with multiple wives, say 4 wives, 120 quid each for them a week. If you're lucky, you'll get £78,000 a year in British welfare for your polygamist many wives. I mean, come on. This has got to stop, hasn't it? 03444991000, as Khadija alluded to. This is like the suicidal empathy of the British middle classes. Oh, it's Islam, it's Muslim. Oh, wonderful, isn't it? Wonderful religion. No, this bit of it isn't wonderful. It's wrong. 03444991000. Next up, we're going to talk about old Alan Milburn's report about the shocking state of Britain's younger workless generation. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Alan Milburn's report. It's about the lost generation. He says that difficult is getting a job for young white British people, young Brits, not just whites, just young Brits generally, that by 2030 we're in danger of there but 1 in every 6 young person being on the dole. Meanwhile, he also points out that 27 young migrants from outside the EU are hired for every young Brit amid the UK's growing employment crisis. He also points out that the young British workforce has grown by less than 1% since 2020, whereas the number of non-EU workers on the UK payroll has rocketed by a staggering 355%. Something's going badly wrong here, isn't it? Let's talk to former Conservative MP Nick Fletcher. I mean, the first thing I want to say, Nick, is, fairness to Milburn, this is a shocking report. It's something that we all ought to know about. But why are we in such a terrible state? Why do we have all these workless kids all over the country? Why is the economy in such a mess that kids coming out of school no longer get opportunities? Well, arguably, it's down to Tony Blair, Alan Milburn and all their Labour mates, isn't it? They're the ones who created this playing field that has gone so badly wrong. So, whilst I applaud this report, it sticks in my craw a bit that it's coming from a guy who arguably helped to cause the crisis.
Yes, and I think that Tony Blair said yesterday was a socialist actually growing up and realising the error of his mistakes. And it's terrible, unfortunately. I keep on saying this time and time again. The people that make these policies that are so damaging are never the ones that suffer. It's always somebody else that suffers. And white working class lads have been hammering this message over for the past, I don't know how many years. White working class lads are the forgotten people. Everybody else has got somebody shouting for them, whether it's immigrants or whether it's people of different sexualities or whatever it is. Everybody's shouting for them. No one's shouting for the working class lads. And now we're seeing the fruits of these policies. And this is absolutely dreadful, because once you get young people into that rut of not getting up, not going to work, that's something very, very difficult to get them out of, and costs a fortune to get them out of it as well. We're seeing lots and lots of schemes trying to get people back into work, where if we created a good environment for young people to go straight from school and either into work or into a meaningful degree, then we wouldn't be having these troubles now.
Well, Milburn says that our vast welfare state, which we now know is costing more than we actually earn, if you like, from income tax. That is economic dysfunctionalism at its very worst. Milburn says that the vast welfare state is, and I quote, exacerbating inactivity. Well, who is responsible for this vast, unwieldy, ludicrous welfare state, Mr. Milburn? That would be your party, wouldn't it?
That's 100% right. And there's going to have to be some tough decisions to be made. And sooner or later, somebody is going to have to do them. And they're going to be extremely, extremely unpopular. But it's no good just reducing the welfare state. We need to have something to increase the jobs that are available to young people. And the one way that you can do that is reduce taxes. What we've done is we've increased the welfare state, and we've also decreased the opportunities for young people. Drop the taxes, drop the net zero policies, drop the bureaucracy, drop all these grants that employers have to spend hours and hours trading through to try and apply to get the grants, just drop the taxes and keep out of business, and business will look after itself. It will create those opportunities, and if the welfare state's reduced sufficiently enough, then those people will have to go out to work because it will not be there for them, but there'll be jobs for them to go to as well, and that's what we need to do. Unfortunately, we've done the opposite on both things.
Now, Melbourne got very sort of tetchy about the suggestion that perhaps our young workless generation might be, horror of horrors, whisper it quietly, lazy. They don't really want a job. He got really angry about that. He said, no, that's unfair. That's very, you shouldn't besmirch them like this. They desperately want a job. They're just not there. Well, if they're not there, how come so many young migrants from outside the EU are finding jobs? As I said earlier, Nick, that since 2020, the young British workforce, the number of young Brits in employment, has grown by less than 1%. In the same time frame from 2020, the number of non-EU migrants, young migrants on the UK payroll has rocketed by a staggering 355%. This is an awkward question to have to ask, but we do have to ask ourselves, have we churned out, or are we churning out, generations of lazy kids who don't want to work?
There's bound to be some lazy people out there. We all know it. We all have a workforce around us, and some work much harder than the others. We know that's happening. So to say that there's no lazy children out there is a silly thing to say. But there's an awful lot of really good young lads and lasses who actually want a job. But I think one of the things that I found when I was working with a lot of young people is that there's a certain snobbery out there, and they can't help it. And I understand.
Yeah.
They have a degree, and so they don't think that they should go and stack shelves. They don't think they should go and sweep. I'm waiting for my job because it'll make it look bad on my CV if I've been doing work that's not around my degree, and that's very, very silly. I always remember Teresa Coffey coming out with any job, better job, career, and I think that's a fantastic saying that we need to get into these young people. Any job, better job, and then let's get the career. Because I know as an employer, I employ lots and lots of people. But when someone comes to me and they've not been working for 6 months, the question is why? Because I know there is jobs out there. And I think the way that young people apply for jobs as well, they only seem to apply for jobs that are actually advertised. I think you need to go and knock on these doors and say, do you want somebody? Is there a job available? I can do this, I can do that, and actually go and create them opportunities yourself. But I don't know, there seems to be a lack of that approach in an awful lot.
Well, it's the new boom industry, isn't it? NEETs, young people not in employment, education or training. They are growing in numbers alarmingly. And one last question to you, Nick, and this is alarming as well, and is possibly tied up with what we're talking about, and that is the fact that record numbers of children and young people are claiming to be suffering from mental illness. Why do you think that is happening?
There'll be a multitude of reasons, won't there? COVID will have played a part, the access to social media is another part. And as I say, if you can bring in money without actually working, and you can use that as a reason to get benefits, then that will obviously be playing a part as well. And we have to get around this. Oh, you can't say that because that's damaging to all young people. It's not. There'll be a certain amount of truth in each of those things to each of those people. Yeah. But the best thing that you can do for your mental health is get out there.
Get a job. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. One thing I would say is when I was a kid, a long time ago, I know, nobody suffered from mental health issues because the term mental health issues had not yet been invented. With the result that, call me controversial, but I have never, ever once thought in my entire life about my mental health. because I don't really understand the concept. So if you create the concept, people flock to it. Do you see what I'm saying? Nick, really good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. Really good. Nick Fletcher there, former Conservative MP, on this report by Alan Milburn. It is an important report. It is a shocking report, but it sticks in my craw that it's this Labour grandee telling us, why is the country in such a state? Why are so many young people unemployed? Why is the fact that there are so few businesses, these people can't get jobs? Oh, I don't know, Mr. Milburn, maybe you and your mates in Labour, hey? Let's go to break, and we're going to talk about Helen Mirren next, who's been subjected to a verbal anti-Semitic attack. That next, stay tuned.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense.
Talk Breakfast
On Talk.
6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, let's kick off by playing you this little footage. This is Dame Helen Mirren, one of our greatest actresses, on her way home on a London street, walking innocently through the city of London with her husband. This is what happened to her.
And there's Helen Mirren, the avowed Zionist. She said Israel should last forever because of the Holocaust. And she was very happy the Palestinian houses. You put the post up, you evil old bag. You're an evil Zionist, and you as well, you and all.
That's disgusting, isn't it? I mean, Helen's crime, Dame Helen's crime, is she stands with Israel. And that's what she gets subjected to in the streets of London. Good for her husband, Taylor Hackford, who didn't take any crap from this person and gave him what for. We've had to bleep a lot of it out. I'm going to say this once more. We shouldn't reuse this word, but you got to know this is, you know, a revered actress, a nice lady who's been out for dinner with her husband. She's walking home, and some racist comes up and calls her a Zionist bitch. That's London. That's Britain today. Anti-Semitism is out of control. Meanwhile, at the British Museum, Jewish Culture Month has been postponed because the museum fears anti-Semitic attacks. This is all spiralling out of control. Let's talk to the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman. Stephen, well, here we are again, but I mean, as I say, this Dame Helen Mirren's crime, according to this racist who accosted her in the street, is she stands with Israel. To these people, you know, once again you see the word Zionist being used as a pejorative insult. Oh, you're a Zionist. Well, as you and I have agreed before, you know, I'm a Zionist, you're a Zionist. There's nothing wrong with being a Zionist. I think it's a very healthy outlook on life. But I mean, your thoughts as the British Museum postpones Jewish Culture Month because it fears it will be subjected to anti-Semitic attacks. This is just getting worse, isn't it?
One of the problems with doing interviews with you and others, Kevin, is that with this ever-growing litany of incidents, you're kind of running out of adjectives to describe how you feel. So you have to keep falling back on the same ones. And what we've just seen is abhorrent, it's disgusting, it's revolting. And I'm afraid to say that it's a microcosm of the wider pro-Palestine movement, this kind of smug, holier-than-thou attitude, utterly convinced that hateful bullying is a sign of being morally impeccable, and completely oblivious to the fact that that kind of behavior makes him look ridiculous and repugnant to all decent people. But at least he was probably able to go to bed last night safe in the certainty that he is a good person.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, that you're right. This racist, this anti-Semite, abusing Dame Helen and her husband, Taylor Hatford, will be very pleased with himself. He thinks that they're the evil ones and he is, you know, a modicum of wonderfulness, and yet he's a racist. How did we get to this point where people like this racist can have such a twisted view of life?
It's a combination of a long drawn-out saga of our society, our media, our universities being infiltrated by a radical left ideology combined with an identity politics that divides the world into the oppressed and the oppressor, and has decided that the oppressors are all white and that Jews are white, and that they're capitalists and they're colonizers, and that therefore they are responsible for anything evil that is done to them by other people. It's a kind of cognitive dissonance that is breathtaking in its stupidity.
It's stupid is what it is. You're absolutely right. But it is the scourge of this country at the moment. And a few words, if you will, on the British Museum having to postpone Jewish Culture Month because it fears anti-Semitic attacks. The museum said it made this decision after it learnt that a significant proportion of registered attendees were intending to deliberately disrupt the event. I mean, the British Museum can't even have a Jewish Culture Month without postponing it, basically cancelling it. That's where we're at. What worries me about this, you know, I understand the British Museum's decision. That said, this means the anti-Semites are winning, doesn't it?
Well, this raises two really important questions. I mean, firstly, this will be the same thugs who demand their freedom of expression when they want to intimidate and harass Jews on the streets or on university campuses in the name of Palestine. Yet they simply cannot stomach the idea of people seeing scientific evidence of Jewish indigeneity in Israel. So why are they so threatened by historical fact? It exposes the lies and the moral bankruptcy of their ideology. So there's that. But the second thing is, the British Museum spotted it and stopped it. But this is going to keep happening until an institution is prepared to stand up and say, no, you will not do this. Until that institution does what it needs to do in order to keep its speakers, its visitors, and its staff safe, then, they are going to keep winning. Somebody has to draw a line in the sand, and they have to start drawing it now.
And I mean, this is a massive question, but what it doesn't strike me that any significant steps have been taken so far to halt this explosion of anti-Semitism that we're experiencing. It's getting worse by the day. Doesn't strike me as anything has been done significant to stop this. We had a few weasel words from the Prime Minister, few more quid for the cops in Golders Green, but nothing much else. What should we do, Stephen, as a first step to try and combat this horror?
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, in the aftermath of the attacks in Golders Green a few weeks ago, there was the usual outpouring of outrage and sympathy. There were more promises than usual of real action this time, and we've had nothing. And the really frustrating thing is I'm not saying carrying it out is easy, but knowing what to do is easy. More deterrence, more action by the criminal justice system, both the police and the CPS. To prove that we're not operating a two-tiered criminal justice system, dealing with the universities that allow their students to be radicalized, closing down mosques that host radical extremist preachers who incite anti-Semitic hatred. There's a whole range of things that we've been asking for years now. It isn't hard to know what to do, but doing it takes backbone, and no one appears to have any at the moment.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. We need to. I don't sense resolve and commitment on the part of the government about this, and you know where I'm coming from. Keir Starmer's made great strides in terms of the anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, but it's still there, and there are still there's still a lot of Jew hatred amongst our left-wing political classes, and I think to really start to get to grips with the scourge of anti-Semitism, you just need a few politicians who really believe in stamping it out. I think that would help. Bit of resolve. Stephen, it's always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. That's Stephen Silverman, Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, after poor Dame Helen Mirren. I think she's about 80. She's just walking home at night in London with her husband, and that racist just abuses her, shouting at her in the street, calling the most appalling names. What is going wrong, folks? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, much still to come. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Lots still to come. In a little while, we're going to be talking about the Boris wave. Stories today emerging that from 2021 to 2024, bungling Boris let in 4.2 million illegal, low-skilled migrants into the country, and we're still suffering badly from the social and economic effects of that madness to this day. We'll talk about that in a little while. But first, let's go over to my next guest to go through some of the other big stories of the day. He is the Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer. Welcome, Graham.
Good evening.
First of all, can I get your take on Alan Milburn's Lost Generation report today? Shocking stuff. Cards on the table. I've been saying it's all very well to point out all the problems that are facing our younger generation now in terms of jobs, but arguably Mr. Milburn and previous political generations, are responsible for the economic plight we find ourselves in now, which is giving so few job opportunities to young people. That said, what do you think of his report, and what do you think we can do about the fact that Alan warns us that in 6 years' time, 2030, that's 4 years' time, isn't it? By 2030, 1 in 6 young Brits will be on the dole. What do you think?
I think the shocking thing is, I'm not shocked, and I guess most people aren't. I didn't know the detailed figures. Nobody did until Alan did this report. But it's been unemployment amongst young people has been rising for some time. And one thing I agree with Keir Starmer is it is complicated why it's like that. The incentives in the system are wrong. There are a considerable number of people who can get more on benefits than if they work at the minimum wage. That's part of the complication. Some people do degrees that don't have any real value in the marketplace, and they're left with a lot of debt from going to university. So there are complicated reasons. Some of the changes in employment law and taxation law have put pressure on employers in an uncertain world, so they're recruiting less. And no doubt if we sat here all evening, we could think of a number of other reasons. The government needs to dedicate some resources and money to finding pathways to get people off benefits.
What about the mindset of our younger generation? Because since 2020, the young Brit workforce has expanded by less than 1%. And in that same time frame, the workforce of non-EU migrants on the UK payroll, as it were, has expanded by 335%. What that indicates to me is that some young Brits are sort of job snobs. They go, I got a degree, I shouldn't be stacking shelves. Whereas these migrants who come from non-EU countries, they're prepared to, serve the coffee, sweep the floors and stack the shelves. So job snobbery may be a factor here.
I think that's true, and it's been a factor since the 1950s. There were many people came from the West Indies because people were finding it difficult to find people to do unsavoury jobs like cleaning toilets and cleaning buildings generally. That, in a sense, was the start of immigration from the Commonwealth and elsewhere. But it's happening at both ends of the scale. There are people coming to do jobs that nobody else wants to do, or sort of people who are British and have been born here for some time don't want to do. But at the top end of the scale, we have also been importing qualified doctors, other people for the health service, when we should be training our own people, whether it's physiotherapists, all sorts of people come from India. The Philippines is the largest supplier of people to the NHS, and we need to be training our own people. It's a short-term training. There are some public bodies that only advertise externally. So again, it's a complicated issue, but we should train and employ our own people, and we should invest so that some of these jobs that are pretty unsavoury to do can be done by machinery or elsewhere. A lot of complicated things, a lot of solutions, but just doing what you've described as the Boris wave, saying anybody can come if they're willing to do a difficult, unpleasant job, is not the way forward. We need to sort out our own problems.
Well, it didn't help, did it, raising the minimum wage? That makes it more difficult for employers to employ young people, or more expensive, therefore fewer opportunities for youngsters.
That's right. I mean, I've been a trade unionist all my life. I want as good conditions for employees as we can get. But there is a balance between having good wage rates, good conditions, and making it difficult or risky for employers to employ people. And I think we didn't do enough consultation. I think the balance is wrong. There was a ferocious fight when the minimum wage was first introduced by Tony Blair in about 98, I think it was. We were up all night voting on it. The Tories strongly opposed it. But there'd been a huge consultation process, and most of business was on side, and that worked. And it worked so well that the Tories actually increased the minimum wage and supported it when they came into office. So I think that we don't want people working for sort of slave wages. We want good wages, but there has to be a balance that employers can afford. And I think maybe we've got the balance a little bit wrong.
Quite. Well, it's a very tricky and alarming problem, I think, but let's hope something begins to improve on that front. Let me ask you about this story. I really want to just talk to you about it because it's so shocking and perhaps indicates that perhaps we need to think about the way police react to these situations. Our audience is absolutely furious about this. This is the tragic story down in Southampton of a university student called Henry Novak, who was 18. He'd been to a nightclub. He was on his way home. There was some kind of altercation involving a young Sikh man called Vikram Digwa. He's 23. And this altercation ended up with Digwa stabbing Henry Novak with a Sikh kirpan ceremonial knife. Now, Henry collapsed to the ground, and when the cops turned up, this Vikram Digwa character told them, well, he was subjecting me to racial abuse. At which point, the coppers just immediately started treating Henry Novak as if he was the criminal. And this poor kid is lying on the ground. He is choking on his own blood, begging for help. And what do these coppers do? They handcuff him and arrest him. Shortly afterwards, he died right there and then. Hampshire and Isle of Wight police are profusely apologising. They referred themselves to the Police Complaints Commission. But, you know, I'm not a sort of string them up and, lock them up kind of a character. But I think that these coppers who behave like this, I think they possibly need to be prosecuted. But my point here, Graham, is that too many coppers, I think, if you cry racism, that immediately gets you in the clear. They're on your side. This is a tragic story, and the poor parents of Henry Novak will never see their son again.
I think the police, from having been, I think it's a generalisation, and therefore there will be huge exceptions. But I think in the 60s, 70s and 80s, the police were insensitive to racism, and they tolerated racists amongst them in many forces. I know that was true in Greater Manchester, it's true in London, probably in all our forces. as the law has changed and people have become more aware of racism and it has become less socially acceptable, I think the police have hugely overreacted, and in one way in particular. I made complaints when white girls were raped by gangs of people from Kashmiri and Pakistani origin in Greater Manchester, and pointed it out to the then Chief Constable that his objectives were that if a person says they're being racially abused or the crime is of a racialist nature, then they should start from believing that. You can agree or disagree with that, but that was there in black and white. But when white girls said that this was a racist attack and the people raping them were racist, the police chose to ignore it. So I think they've become more sensitive, but in one direction and one direction only. And they need better training, and that culture needs changing from a second time, from tolerating racists to be overreacting in one particular way.
Yeah, it's almost as you say, they're overcompensating for their tolerance of racism in the past. In fact, their tolerance of having the police's tolerance for having racists among them. It's almost as if now they're overcompensating. But this is a shocking and terrible case. Let's move on. But you'll be interested in this story, by the way. It's literally just broken. The Mandelson files are beginning to dribble out. But the Telegraph is currently revealing that cabinet ministers attempted to conceal their messages with Lord Mandelson from Parliament. Government officials dealing with the Mandelson files were forced to ask ministers to hand over their messages more than once after significant initial reluctance. Yeah, don't get close to Mandelson. It's rather toxic, but interesting.
Yes, I mean, I personally, I'm a strong believer in open government. But I think both in practice and in principle, many ministers don't like the idea of open government. They are happier to take decisions in private and secret and not explain how they've come to those decisions. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're not governed as well as we could be. Obviously, you can't have every private discussion between cabinet ministers made public immediately. But in a case like this, where it appears that Peter Mandelson was appointed in an unusual and not regular way, then how that decision came about, I think the public have a right to know, and ministers, even if they've done things they now wish they hadn't, have an obligation to hand over the information.
Apparently, another story that was in the papers this morning was that Mandelson during his brief tenure as the ambassador in Washington, our man in Washington, was firing off memos and messages every day to cabinet secretaries, telling them how they should be doing their job. So when he fell from grace, I reckon there's probably some people in the cabinet who weren't too dismayed.
I think that would be true of cabinet ministers in the Blair-Brown government, as well as cabinet ministers this time. I think cabinet ministers in both administrations were frightened of Peter Mandelson. I was having a private conversation with two people who had been in the cabinet in the Blair years, and I said, this was before the Mandelson case blew up, and I said that Peter Mandelson had helped Labour to the victories in '97 and improving the Labour Party's electoral prospects. And these were people I'm friendly with, I know, but they were not having it. They thought Peter Mandelson was a grey, dark eminence, as his reputation was, and he used to stand in the chamber when cabinet ministers in the Blair period were at the dispatch box, and it was like he was marking them.
Yeah, I've heard about this, glaring at them, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's gone on since. There are a lot of cabinet ministers did not appreciate Peter Mandelson's influence.
Well, it's gone now in a very real way. Let me ask you about this. You have to be slightly careful here because we're under local election PERDA broadcasting rules. But Andy Burnham, obviously the Labour candidate there, has dropped his call for migrants to get immediate benefits and welfare. This is his fifth major policy shift since becoming the candidate, and one of his big shifts was, of course, just a couple of months after saying I really want to rejoin the European Union, suddenly saying, well, actually, I don't want to rejoin the European Union. I don't know what your relationship with Mr. Burnham is, but he has something of a reputation for being a political shapeshifter. What's your opinion on this, Andy? I don't know. What would you like my opinion to be? One of those characters. Do you think he's a bit slippery?
I like Andy. When he first became an MP, I was his whip. He always did what the whips wanted him to do. There was no trouble in that sense. I was a hopeless whip, incidentally. So I have a good relationship with him, but he seems to be competing with Keir Starmer for the number of U-turns he can do. And I think that Tony Blair's intervention was a good thing, because what he said, he wasn't right, left or centre. He said what I think is just common sense. You need to state your objectives in government clearly, and how you will form a pathway so that you achieve those objectives. That's just common sense to me. But if you don't do that, Keir Starmer hasn't done it, the people who want his job aren't doing it at the present time because they're avoiding answering difficult questions. Andy, for instance, wants devolution to the regions. I agree with him. He wants more resources into the regions. I agree with him. But he never says how it's going to be paid for.
Yeah.
And if in a static economy, which it's got, you're going to give more money to the regions, you're going to take it from London and the South East. Yeah. And he isn't spelling that out. Also, if you're going to have more local democracy, then you have to have local taxation that will raise a good percentage of the money. If you want representation, you need taxation, to take a phrase from the people who set up the United States of America.
Yeah, I think that Tony Blair made a lot of sense yesterday. Andy Burnham's reaction was rather angry. He said, never once mentioned inequality. Not really the point, was it?
Absolutely not. One can want an equal society, but to make any serious changes, I mean, it's part of what I was just saying about regional inequalities. If you're going to address the problem of regional inequalities, then you have to grow the cake a bit and give the regions a bigger percentage than they otherwise would have had or were getting previously, but not taking it directly from somewhere else, because if you take it directly from somewhere else, you're in for trouble and you will not get a consensus or support for that policy. So really, the big problems of this country are not equality. Equality follows, or inequality follows from an economy that has not grown really for the last 18 or 19 years. We need to grow the economy. We need to take decisions that will do that. And as we've discussed before, that means dealing with energy policy, recruitment policy, all sorts of big issues, which aren't being addressed by the pretenders to the leadership of the Labour Party.
No, quite. Graham, thank you so much for your time. Excellent to have you on the show, as always. Graham Stringer there, MP, the outspoken, independent-minded Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South. He tells it like it is. Now, because I mentioned Makerfield and indeed the Labour Party's candidate Andy Burnham, because of broadcasting rules, I have to read all the candidates. I've got 423 of them, so it's going to take about an hour. OK, ready? No, it's not that many. Right, here we go. Jake Austin, Liberal Liberal Democrats, Count Bimface Party, Andy Burnham, the Labour Party, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, John Dyer, Independent, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, Independent, Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. Let's go to break. See you in a minute.
Good morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This 23-year-old Sikh who claimed that Henry Novak, 18-year-old student at Southampton University, was subjecting him to racial abuse, and that's why he stabbed him with an 8-inch ceremonial Sikh knife. Stabbed him to death. That was a wicked lie. He's just a thug. He's a murderer who pretended. He played the race card. Now, you know, he's awaiting sentence. You know, I hope he gets life and they throw away the key. Well, he will. Whether or not they'll give him a full life term, who knows, but that's what he deserves. My question to you is, the coppers who turned up when this poor kid, Henry Novak, was dying on the pavement, choking on his own blood, begging for help, As soon as they heard, oh, well, he subjected me to racial abuse, what did they do to this dying kid? Choking on his own blood, they handcuffed him and arrested him. I think those coppers, as their police force, Hampshire and Isle of Wight, apologised profusely, quite rightly. I think those coppers who treated poor Henry Novak like that, I think they should be prosecuted. Do you? You know, never mind police complaints and, oh, we've reprimanded them or we've fired them. Prosecute them. That's criminal negligence, I think. 03444991000. Let me know what you think. In the meantime, let's talk about the man who ruined Britain. I'm talking about bungling Boris Johnson. He really, really did, folks, 100%. This is why Kemi Badenoch and her crew, her Conservative crew, are struggling, because millions of Brits, we all know that her party, the Tories, let us down. They betrayed us. They secretly imported millions and millions of low-skilled, low-paid, often not paid, unemployed, illegal migrants. 4.2 million between 2021 and 2024. That's what Boris did to this country. A state-sponsored invasion of the Boris wave. We are only now beginning to suffer the effects of this insanity insofar as the first wave of the Boris waivers are coming into qualification for full benefits. They get indefinite leave to stay after 5 years. This is going to cost us an untold fortune, and the economic and social effects of Boris's hopeless insanity, his hopeless incompetence, are going to be felt for the foreseeable future, for many, many generations. For example, here's a statistic born of all of this. Babies born to migrant families in Britain now account for 40% of all births in the UK. Migrant babies, migrant births are 40%. This is all because people like Boris Johnson were letting in millions, and never mind small boats or under lorries. It's not illegal. They were all allowed in. Absolute insanity. Let's talk to international border control expert and the Social Democratic Party spokesman for Foreign Affairs, Defence and Security, Henry Bolton. Henry, Boris Johnson is the man who ruined Britain, isn't he?
Yes, Kevin, but as always, I'm going to say things aren't quite as simple as maybe they seem, because the reason that happened is because, and this was not because of Brexit, it was because of decisions made after Brexit in relation to us leaving that were not properly planned and thought through. So, for example, there were decisions made to allow in care workers. That was something that the Boris Johnson government did, but they just simply made that decision not understanding that would result in dependents coming and so on and so forth. They hadn't thought through all of these issues, but they were persuaded by people on the left of the Conservative Party and elsewhere that actually we needed to bring in additional workers to make up for the fact that we weren't getting the Europeans in any longer because we didn't have freedom of movement. So it's quite complex. But yes, that's that government's fault. Ultimately,
the other reason for all of this, Henry, you're right. It's slightly post-Brexit because we couldn't utilise EU workers, low-skilled workers anymore. But it was also this kind of this fallacious, wrong economic idea that if you, no matter how low-paid, low-skilled people are, if you import them in large numbers, they've still got money to spend. That will boost your economy. That is absolutely not wrong. That was the basis on what they were brought in on.
No, I agree with you, Kevin. And just to correct you, I'm not in any way saying that this is because of Brexit. No. What I was saying before we left the European Union, and I still say, is that it relies on detailed planning, because otherwise your decisions are going to be flawed. And in this case, even letting those people in created far more damage than was even realised, because nobody had done the planning. They just made decisions, which politicians seem to have a habit of doing, and the country pays for. But you're absolutely right. There was a whole load of ideological issues around about open borders, about how immigration benefits the economy. It does not. This is going to cost the country hundreds of billions of pounds.
No, it's extraordinary.
And we basically, we're now, because of this government, we've not got two beans to rub together. So it's created a massive hole for us. That's absolutely true. There is one way out of it, though, Kevin. And that is to
emigrate, go and live in another country. Go on, sorry.
Maybe that log cabin in Finland. No. And that is to end ILR, the indefinite leave to remain.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You see, Boris knew about ILR as he's letting in 4.2 million people, so he was well aware that in 5 years, each one of these 4.2 million people will have full benefits rights. In other words, we are now on the cusp of the first wave of the Boris waivers beginning to claim full benefits, and that will cost this country, as you say, over the years, potentially hundreds of billions of pounds. How could Boris have been quite so stupid?
I don't think he knew, Kevin. I think this is what I'm saying. I think he just thought we've got to let people in, because we need the workers, because it's good for the economy, and hadn't thought through all the second and third order effects, such as access to welfare and so on, such as the cost of to the country in terms of the housing that's needed, the pressure on policing, fire service, ambulance, schools, hospitals, you name it, even cars on the road. I just think he didn't think through these things. But nonetheless, we are where we are. The only way of heading it off is to end indefinite leave to remain. But that's going to be, that's going to require political courage and will to do it. This government is not going to do it.
No, it just makes the right noises, but nothing has happened. You're right.
Yeah.
What about this extraordinary statistic, which is potentially, I guess, wrapped up in the scourge of the Boris wave, that babies born to migrant families, in other words, the babies of migrants, now account for 40% of all births in the UK. We have a birth rate problem. Indigenous Brits are not churning out kids at the same rate as they usually used to. But that is an extraordinary statistic, isn't it? 40% of all births in the UK are now babies born to migrant families.
Indeed. And that's our 2024 figures. And already 1 in 5 people living in these islands was born abroad. So we've got a growing issue here. And as you say quite rightly, that the British population, if you like, indigenous British population, is not having as many children, and that's because of pressures. I think young couples, they can't afford housing, they can't afford to run the car, they can't afford all the bills. They're trying to make ends meet. They're both working. The last thing, in a way, that anybody wants to throw into that mix when they've already got stressful, sort of anxiety-filled lives, is children. So we're not having them. But then, but immigrant families, we've just discussed, have got access to the welfare state, and we're even paying some immigrant men welfare or benefits for more than one wife. And
I know.
Each of those wives can have children.
I know.
So
78 grand a year. 78 grand a year if you've got 4 wives.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's insane. So, but the other problem, and these two things that we've just talked about, this and the Boris wave, if you like, the impact of these is also cultural. It is changing
of course it is,
the face, the culture, the nature, the style, the behaviour of this entire nation. And you and I and all of the people who lived here beforehand were not consulted, were not asked, and actually nonetheless expressed ourselves multiple times in multiple votes that we did not want this to happen.
You're so right. You're so right, Henry.
We have been royally shafted by the political class, and I think it's partly deliberate. For example, in the case of this government, I think they're ideologically wedded to it. The Greens are. I think the Conservatives were guilty of the most gross negligence.
It's the Conservatives, isn't it? And I don't think that Kemi's crew will struggle to recover from the damage that Boris Johnson and his crew did to this country. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. Henry, I've got to go, but good to talk to you as always. Henry Bolton, International Border Control expert, Social Democrat Party spokesman for Foreign Affairs and Defence Security there. Next up, we're going to return to the scourge, I would suggest, of the increasing leniency of sentencing by Britain's bleeding heart judges. They keep going, oh, well, it's guidelines. I don't care about guidelines. It's ridiculous to let 3 rapists off, isn't it? Oh, off you go. No, you don't want to criminalise you. Well, you've got to Here's the idea. This is a memo to Judge Nicholas Rowland, who let these 3 thugs off. What you do with rapists is you do criminalise them because they are the worst kind of criminals. I hope that helps Judge Rowland. We'll talk about this madness of lunatic leniency in our courts next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's get my next guest on, journalist and broadcaster Robert Taylor. Hi, Robert.
Hello, Kevin.
Well, I wanted to talk about this in the wake of that ludicrous decision by Judge Nicholas Rowland to let those 3 rapists go. Today, we've been hearing, from the victims, obviously anonymously. One of them was on the BBC last night, saying that they can't sleep. They will never recover from this, that they've had a life sentence. Where is the justice for them? Meanwhile, you would have seen, was it last week, the case of 86-year-old granny Gloria Stevenson. She's killed by a drugged-up yob called Billy Stoko, 18 years old, up in Sunderland. He's riding an illegal e-bike, and he smashed into her, stoned, as she's going across the zebra crossing with a little dog, and she died, 86 years old. He got 6 years and 9 months, means he'll be out in about 4 years, and his family say that sentence is an insult that has worsened their grief. And check this one out. At Cardiff Crown Court, a guy called Rashid Jama, 20 years old. He's been handed an 18-month sentence for hate crimes against coppers, using extreme levels of violence and extreme racial slurs, assaults, anti-Semitic abuse, and attacking a man with a hammer after spitting at police officers, threatening to rape a WPC. This guy pleaded guilty to 11 serious offences. But he's been held in custody at Swansea Prison since his arrest, and therefore the judge informed him that he will be released, if not today, very, very soon. So this sentencing is not dispensing British justice, is it? Now, these judges always go, oh, well, it's the guidelines. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. It's a mindset. It's their mindset. What on earth was this Judge Nicholas Rowland going on about? I don't want to criminalise you. To 3 kids, 3 little monsters who held one girl at knife point for a horrifying 90-minute ordeal, filmed her, laughed, and then they went back to rape someone else, another victim, 2 weeks later, and this judge said, I don't want to criminalise you, off you go, you're free. Well, here's what you do, Mr. Rowland, Judge Rowland. You do criminalise rapists because they're the worst kind of rapists. What I'm suggesting is, I think we have a kind of guardianista liberalism flowing through our judiciary, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole nation was horrified by the leniency shown to these boys. Now, okay, they're 14. I think 2 of them were 14 and 1 were 13. But what kind of society are we, Kevin, where kids of that age are raping young girls? I mean, it's just astounding. And I looked at this afternoon, knowing I was going to speak to you about this. Apparently, these kind of incidents of rape among boys, teenage boys, are going up. And what kind of indictment of our society is that? It's absolutely appalling. And we all, I think, recognise that, you know, sending them away for 6 months rehabilitation just is.
Well, it didn't send them away. They're not. They'll be living with it. They're not being incarcerated in any way.
That's right.
They're walking free.
We're all, even if they're 14, 13, you know, whatever age, that's just not good enough. The trouble is, in this country, we can't get the balance right. What we're not doing is punishing and rehabilitating. So these kids are not really being punished as far as I can see. But if they went to jail, they wouldn't be rehabilitated, because our jails in this country are university.
Well, do you know what, Robert? I couldn't give a damn if they get rehabilitated or not. They deserve to be punished. They deserve to be locked up. And this judge is all over the place on this. It was a horrendous mistake. And, of course, we discover in this hierarchical society of ours that we have no mechanism. We, the people, for whom our judges work, they don't work we don't work for them, they work for us. We have no way to even reprimand this guy, let alone sack him. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you on all of that. And that's why I say I think the whole nation would be horrified by the leniency of this sentence. But I think the point remains that we do need punishment, deterrence and rehabilitation. Let me just tell you why I believe that, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Because unless someone goes into jail for life and they're never released, they will come out of prison at some stage. That guy or woman, it's usually a guy, could be living next door to you or me, having spent time inside. Yeah. Do we want that person to come out an even worse criminal than they went in? Or do we want some sort of rehabilitation?
I mean, you know, Robert, I'm with you in principle, except they always come out worse. Rehabilitation is just a word. People in prison do not get rehabilitated. We just say they do. The point about prison is its primary function is punishment. And you said, what kind of a society are we becoming where more and more boys, underage boys, become rapists? Well, I would imagine they're encouraged by the fact that you don't even go to jail now for rape. That is ridiculous, and if these stupid judges are not going to incarcerate people for essentially probably the second worst crime of them all, murder then rape, if they're not going to incarcerate rapists, then we need to make prison sentences for rape mandatory.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you on that. I think just about everyone in the country would, apart from a few what you described as Gardinistas, even for kids age 14, 13. This is the worst kind of crime, bar one, as you put it. What I would like to get to is a situation where our prisons are better able to do all three.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, they're currently,
they can't. They just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who has any experience of prison will know there is no rehabilitation. And when these kids come out of prison, they're not going to prison unless the Court of Appeal does something. But when they come out of prison, I would like them to be better human beings than they went in. And there's no chance of that happening.
Absolutely. It's a stupid, absolutely ridiculous situation. But I do think we need to recalibrate the mindset of some of our judges whose first instinct is serious leniency, because, you know, that's the way, that's the woke direction the country is going in, and they need to be told, if it's a rapist, you send them to damn jail. End of story. As I say, you know, sending this drugged up kid, Billy Stoker, 18 years old, I mean, it's so sad. We all saw the film, you know, poor old lady, 86-year-old Gloria Stevenson, from a loving family. Her family are devastated. Walking her little dog across a zebra crossing, this thug hits her on his illegal e-bike. He's stoned out of his head. He killed her. I mean, he's very, very remorseful, to give him some credit, I suppose. But he got 6 years and 9 months. That means he'll be out in 4. You know, it's not long enough.
Yeah, and another problem we've got here, Kevin, is that we don't have enough prison cells. So, you know, frankly, if we're going to put these people away for longer, we need more prisons. They're not being built. And who's responsible for that? Ultimately, it is the government. And the trouble is, who wants to put money into prisons when competing resources for health and education and all these other things? We're in a sort of catch-22.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
we need if we're going to have people in prison for longer, we need more prisons. We're not getting them.
Yeah, I would just say, how hard is it to build a prison? Not that hard, but we don't seem to have the resolve. Robert, great to have on the show, as always. Robert Taylor, a journalist and broadcaster there. Next up, Sunsport with Sean Custis. Lots to talk about. Stay tuned.
Good morning to you. This is Tour de Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Burgess. Breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Director of Sport of the Sun newspaper, Sean Custis, is in the studio. Welcome, Sean. We're going to talk tennis because, of course, it's the French Open. And shock news, Sean. The world #1, Jannik Sinner, the Italian, has been knocked out after his... Well, he's withdrawn, hasn't he? After
no, he was beaten in the end.
Oh, was he?
He was, because he was suffering...
He suffered cramp.
Yes, he tried to withdraw or go off for treatment. You're not really allowed to do it. And the heat's clearly got to him. And he was 2 sets up and 5-1 up against a gentleman called Juan Manuel Cerundolo, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Household name in his own household, yeah.
An Argentinian. And so Sinner, 2 sets and 5-1 up, and he lost 6-1 in the 5th set, but he was struggling by the end. It's very hot out there. He does suffer, particularly in heat. He's got quite a pale complexion, and he finds it a struggle. But of course, in the French Open, this has made it incredibly interesting because Alcaraz hasn't played because of injury.
Right.
So you're now looking, does that open the door for Djokovic a bit? Is that possible? That he could do it again?
You know, Djokovic is like the sort of Tony Blair of tennis. He just will not go away, will he? But he can still play at a very good standard.
He can, but I mean, that is a big story. He'll stay as world #1 apparently, but him going out in the second round is a very big story. I didn't realise you were so keen on your tennis.
No,
I hear you.
I've started playing again. I used to be quite good at tennis, and late in life I've been persuaded back onto the court.
I thought you'd be a paddle man myself.
Yeah, maybe I need to reduce my efforts to that.
Anyway,
it's knackering me out, all this tennis, I'll tell you. Well, let's talk about the women's game. And Naomi Osaka, who's an American player, is famous for her eye-catching outfits.
She is.
This one, I'm going to put it up there. I mean, this one took the biscuit. She's taken the long bit off there, but she came onto the court with a sort of full-length ball gown on, didn't she?
Well, yesterday she had a full-length ball gown on, or the day before, and that a glittery dress on underneath. Today she had sort of a type of chainmail jacket in that heat. Goodness knows how that would work, and what seemed like a wedding dress as a train. Which she did take that off.
Yeah, she takes the long bit off. I know if you're listening
on radio, this doesn't quite work, but we can see it on screen. She takes all that off, and she still plays in her glittery dress, which put off her opponent the other day, because it's very sparkly. It's supposed to be like the Eiffel Tower.
That's right.
The lights on the Eiffel Tower. But of course, we get used to at Wimbledon, everybody wearing nice traditional white outfits, and this is a bit out there. Yeah. But Osaka likes to stir it up a bit. Well, I'm sure she's got more to come.
She insists, Naomi Osaka, she insists she doesn't like attention.
No, I know. I
Believe that, and I've got some swampland to sell you in Florida. She was playing German Laura Siegerman, who was not
That was
at
in
all,
the first round, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't, and she beat her, and she wasn't at all happy. She says, wear what you like, I suppose. See, this is what this is what Laura said. Wear what you like. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a fashion show. But what she didn't like was that she found it very distracting how long it took Naomi Osaka to sort of disgorge all of this clothes to get ready for the game.
To get ready for the game, to take the gown off. Yeah. And I don't think it took quite as long to take the chainmail jacket and the bridal dress off today.
Yeah. Because she I think it was...
But she still won against Donna Vekic.
She's a good player, isn't she, Naomi Osaka?
Yes, of course. She's former Grand Slam champion. And she had some time away with some mental health issues and has come back with a bit of a bang, really. She's making fashion statements all over the place. She said she says also the Grand Slams are the only time where you really get to entertain, and she likes to be a bit of an entertainer. So, you know,
I think it's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
I just don't know how you can wear that in that heat. But
yeah, that's true.
There you go.
So, by the way, Naomi Osaka, you won't even know this, but she turned up as an unlikely guest on With Love Meghan, the Meghan Markle cooking home series on Netflix. She suddenly.
And what was she cooking, Kevin?
Well, hang on, I know what it was. She made. We're digressing. Meghan made Naomi Osaka. Why can I remember this? I just can. I had to review it. This kind of weird, sort of asparagus broccoli wheel with sort of sauces all over it. It was a very bizarre dish, and Naomi Osaka looked extremely out of sorts and wondering what the hell she was doing there. But I think Naomi likes the celebrity side of tennis, doesn't she?
She does. A cook, a fashion icon, and a good player.
I've got two words here. Katie Bolter, that's how I play.
Katie Bolter plays later on. She is the last surviving Brit in the French Open. She plays about 25-7. I can't even remember who she's playing, I've got to be honest. But she is... she's the last one standing. We've had a terrible time at the French, where we traditionally have a terrible time, the Brits, because it's on clay. We don't like playing on clay. She is the fiancée, of course, of Alex de Bonaire, who's a very well-known male tennis player, and still in. So let's cheer on Katie.
Good luck, Katie. Good luck,
She
Katie.
plays 6:35.
As I say, good luck, Katie. God knows you're going to need it. Now, she's a good player, Katie Bolter. Let's talk about Anthony Gordon. I was at Fulham on Saturday, and he was sitting on the bench for Newcastle.
Well, I think they knew this was coming.
But what would it have been 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? He's probably a pretty depressed young man. Now he's about to undergo his Barcelona medical before a £69.3 million move from Newcastle, and he's off to the World Cup. So his fortunes have changed.
And everybody got very excited this morning as his private jet lined up at Newcastle Airport, ready to go. Flew over to Barcelona.
So Barcelona flew him private.
Flew him across. He arrived there for a medical. Medicals traditionally in Spain take quite a long time, so I don't know if we'll get any official announcements tonight with any quotes, but look, it's going through. Gordon's a happy man. And as we discussed yesterday, it's not very good news for Marcus Rashford, even though the claim is Barcelona want him to stay. Well, where's Rashford in the pecking order then? And then, of course, there's also the World Cup dynamic with the two of them and who starts. Look, it's great news for Anthony Gordon. It's actually good news for Newcastle because they wanted to get a decent amount of money and they can start spending this summer.
When he's on his game, he's a damn good player, that's for damn sure.
When he's on his game, but he hasn't been recently.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, Arsenal, they've got PSG on Sunday. What's the score?
Well,
Saturday, isn't it? Yeah.
It's Saturday, 5 o'clock on Saturday. Countdown time, really. They'll be going out there tomorrow. Everybody seems fit. Everybody seems very optimistic. There's a lot of bullish quotes going around at the moment about how they will win. And there seems no doubt in Arsenal minds that they're going to do this. It's almost written in the stars. It's written in the stars that they're going to do it. I think there's a heck of amount of confidence, and you get a bit carried along with it. Look, PSG
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it?
But then they've taken so much confidence from winning the Premier League that I think you'd have to say it's on. And of course, we have now won both the other European tournaments.
Yeah, a quick word about Palace.
Europa League last week and Conference League with Palace last night. Not the greatest game you'll ever see. They beat Rayo Vallecano 1-0 with Mateta's thanks to Mateta's shin. But Adam Wharton, who's not going to the World Cup, was superb in the Palace midfield. He ran the game.
All these great players aren't going. Very, very quickly, we've only got 10 seconds. Darts Premier League final tonight.
I just said, did I not? No, maybe I didn't. Yes, it is the Darts Premier League final tonight. I will be going. You'll see lots of nice outfits there.
You're going to be dressed as a big bunny or something,
something like that. Yeah, but it's a big deal. £350,000 of the winner, and you would expect Luke Littler to carry that one off.
Yeah, it's excellent. What a lot we packed in. Sean Custis there, the brilliant director of sport at The Sun, all in your favourite newspaper tomorrow. And next up, we are going to talk more about some big stories. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We contacted former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley about this shocking story of the poor kid stabbed to death by a Sikh who claimed he was being subjected to racial abuse when he wasn't. It was a wicked lie. And the fact that the cops, as soon as they heard racism, treated this dying kid, Henry Novak, as if he was the criminal. They handcuffed him and arrested him while he was choking on his own blood. We contacted Peter Blexley and said, could you come on about it? He's making his way in. He's going to be in the studio in a little while, but still we're going to take your calls later on all of this. 03444991000. So we'll get Peter Blexley's take on this shocking failure on the part of the police, to say the least. But first, let's talk about some of the big stories of the day, including this one with barrister and commentator Stephen Barrett. Good to have you back on the show, Stephen.
Good evening, Kev.
Well, first of all, let's talk about this shocking murder down in Southampton. Now, you know the story. This is a first-year Southampton University student, keen footballer, 18 years old, name of Henry Novak, coming back from a night out at a nightclub, some kind of altercation involving a 23-year-old Sikh, where the cops turn up. This Sikh stabs Henry with an 8-inch Sikh ceremonial knife. Just watching some of the surroundings to this incident on film now. Stabs him with a knife. When the cops turned up, he said, "Well, it was a subjecting me to racist abuse." Henry is on the ground, choking to death on his own blood, and as soon as the police hear he's been racist towards me, they handcuff Henry and arrest him. And then he dies. Let's quickly listen to what the cops are saying about this. This is their police chief well, we're just getting that ready. But the line from the police, from Hampshire and Isle of Wight police, seems to be that these coppers didn't quite understand what was going on. Well, what is there not to understand about a kid choking to death on his own blood? What happened here, Henry? We all know we all know what happened, Stephen. Is that the coppers heard the word racist and started treating Henry Novak as the criminal, as opposed to the guy who stabbed him to death. We've got the top cop talking about this, so let's just have a quick listen.
What action is being taken in relation to the officers who handcuffed him?
We referred ourselves immediately to the Independent Office of Police Conduct the following day, and they've been independently investigating ever since. We are absolutely committed to acting on their findings. The officers are witnesses in that case. As I say, it's clear to me the circumstances were complex.
But that was despite Henry saying that he had been stabbed.
So Henry clearly says he's been stabbed, and it's quite clear that officers don't immediately understand that that's what's happened. Whilst he did have some injuries, that significant bleeding was internal. There was not a significant out of blood where Henry was. The pathologist is clear that that fatal wound was deep and internal. The bleeding was internal. And yes, despite that, there was nothing that officers could have done to save Henry's. So this case is about officers who have limited information, far less information than we have now, who were lied to by Henry's killer on that call. Only one person is responsible for killing Henry, and that's the man who stabbed him that night.
So when this Sikh guy played the race card, the coppers immediately turned on poor Henry Novak. That was acting Deputy Chief Constable of Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police, Robert France, there, making excuses, saying, oh, they didn't understand, the bleeding was internal. Apparently, Henry was choking on his own blood, begging for help, but as soon as they heard the magic word racism, racial abuse, Henry became the criminal, and the guy who killed him was, in the minds of these coppers, completely exonerated. This is twisted wokery gone mad, and Deputy Chief Constable Robert Francis' excuses ring very hollow to me. Your thoughts, Stephen?
He is a pathetic, tiny, weak man. This is how we have got ourselves into this circumstance. Pathetic, tiny, and they might actually be 7 foot tall, but they are morally tiny, weak men. They kowtow to this nonsense. They are brainwashed. They will lie through their teeth. I strongly suggest that that gentleman considers another career, because I hope he's going to have to find one very soon. They have let this boy down because they have embraced it, Kev. It's not involuntary brainwashing. They have been voluntarily brainwashed by the College of Policing, by their fellow weak men and their fellow pathetic cultists, that the minute the word racism is invoked, you have to behave a certain way, like an automata. Just as Charlie Chaplin said over 100 years ago, these are machine men of machine minds. Do not give yourselves over to them. They are pathetic. They are weak. They allowed that innocent boy to die alone in the cold, handcuffed, because of their pathetic ideology. And it is time that we reject their pathetic ideology in its fullest extent. And no, the person who killed Henry Novak is not just the psychopath wielding the knife. And by the way, Kev, I have a lot of sympathy for the Sikh community, who I've always found incredibly lovely, who've integrated extremely well. And you know what? Sometimes you just roll the dice badly and you get the psychopath in your community. I'm sure there are psychopathic bisexuals who do horrendous things for which I'm not responsible. The Sikh community is not responsible. What is responsible is this ideology from these pathetic, weak, woke, communist little men, and we have to reject them for the safety of our children. That is very, very clear to me now. It's gone beyond just maybe you or I might get cancelled, maybe you or I might get forced out the media or whatever. Our children's lives are at risk because of this pathetically mad ideology that finds racists everywhere. Everywhere, as far as the eye can see, when we're not a racist country. And I have nothing but contempt for that gentleman. Nothing.
Here's what I think. Let me know what you think, Stephen. I think this needs to... naturally, they go, it's OK, we've referred ourselves to the Police Complaints Commission. You know, they love to mark their own homework, the coppers. I think we need to go way beyond that on this one. We need to get these officers... and I think, you need to look at the entire situation. But from what I can work out so far, those coppers deserve to be prosecuted. They deserve to be in the dock because they betrayed that poor kid. They left that kid to die because they heard the magic word racism. And it's incredible to think about it, that this Sikh guy, 23 years old, stabbed poor Henry Novak with an 8-inch long ceremonial knife. By the way, what was he doing out on the streets in the early hours of the morning in Southampton with an 8-inch ceremonial Sikh knife anyway? But those coppers, as soon as they heard the word racism, the Sikh guy became the hero, and poor Henry Novak, as he died, became the criminal. You're under arrest. Right, get handcuffs. He was choking on his own blood. Those coppers, they deserve to end up in the dock, if you ask me.
Yes, and so does that tiny little man, the acting chief constable. So let's not... I had to stay very, very quiet, Kev, during the trial. I have to use my words incredibly carefully, because I'm afraid not only in our society are there psychopaths who will handcuff a boy who has been stabbed and is bleeding to death and leave him to die on the pavement because of how psychopathic they are, but they have bosses who taught them how to be psychopathic, and there are people who are psychopathic enough in our society to pretend that I will derail a trial. And throughout the entire Henry Novak trial, I absolutely restrained myself beyond all measures of reasonable restraint, because I was not going to let that boy down. I was not going to have some psychopath on the left say Stephen Barrett has committed contempt of court, therefore we can't have a free and fair trial of the monster who murdered this young man. So I shut myself up. We have to just be aware we live among these people. We're not going to get out of it gently, as far as I can see. But yeah, I want investigations, Kev, and I never go further than the word investigation, because to do so, I think would put me at risk of some crazy loons saying I've said something I shouldn't say. But let's have investigations of those officers, their bosses and their bosses' bosses. Let's have investigations of the College of Policing. What is it teaching chief constables to say?
Yeah,
we've not ripped apart the police. We had to do this before. If you don't, it's like I own a Victorian house, and if you don't look at the plumbing, then you're going to get a leak. And if you don't look at the wiring, you're going to have a wiring fault. And it's a constant effort. Of course it is. That's what a country's like. We haven't looked at the police seriously since Lord Scarman in the 70s. And I frankly would get a hereditary peer back, because I trust the hereditaries with deep respect that they actually love our country. Find a hereditary peer, have them do a proper investigation of the police with the power to sack a lot of people. We've got massive youth unemployment. I don't think recruiting is going to be hard.
This should be a wake-up call. It's time. The police need a complete recalibration of their mindset, because it is true, we all know, and that's what people like this Sikh monster know, that if they cry racism, the police will be immediately on their side. This is a terrible tragedy that must act as a wake-up call to our woke police forces around the country. But still sort of on the same topic, I'm glad I've got you, because we did this story a little earlier, but I want to get your take on it. I want to talk about what I would describe as the increasing lunatic leniency of sentencing by Britain's bleeding heart judges. Of course, I refer to Judge Nicholas Rowland, the alleged learned friend who let 3 rapists go, let them walk free from court, telling them that he didn't want to criminalise them, and they were too young to understand the meaning of consent. They knew what the meaning of the word consent was, because they held a knife point at one of their victims at knife point in order to demand her consent to their rape for 90 horrific minutes. They filmed that rape and laughed while they raped that girl. Then they raped another girl 2 weeks later. And the judge said, I don't want to criminalise you. You don't understand the meaning of the word consent. That was not true. And also, he said, you behaved very well throughout the trial. He praised them. This guy, Rowland in particular, has no right to be a judge. This is absurd. And if we are going to have judges that are going to let rapists go, rape is, in my view, the second worst of all crimes after murder. And if we're going to have judges who are going to let rapists walk free, it's not the only time it's happened, then we're going to have to make prison sentences mandatory for rape. Don't you agree?
Yes, the Sentencing Council is broken. The structures of law are broken. I saw one guy tweeting that people shouldn't be complaining about this because don't you know that section blah, blah, blah of the blah, blah, blah Act. Now, I could tell you which one it was, Kev, but I really think we're beyond this phase. People just need to get what they want. The people want rapists to go to prison, and section blah blah of the blah blah Act is not a good excuse to not send people to prison. And I don't know this man, this judge, but I do want him to face full opprobrium, full criticism for this, because it's just not a defence to say, oh, you can't criticise a judge. He was doing what section blah blah of the blah.
The guidance. Never mind guidance. That's nonsense. Guidance.
Exactly. But they're all just psychopaths sitting on an unaccountable committee. We have to get our country back, Kev. We have to, and this is going to sound so odd, given that I'm not only a lawyer, I've been publicly a lawyer for a very long time, by my reckoning, and I consider myself quite broad in my law. I love law, I love all of it, but we've got to get rid of a hell of a lot of it, and we've got to stop the lawyers being in charge of everything. You can't trust them. They're not good people. Just get it back. Get it back. I would take all the power from the current judiciary and I'd put it to the current residents of any Wetherspoons pub, and I'd get better outcomes for the country. Yeah. And that's all I care about is the outcomes.
Just a couple of other examples of ludicrous leniency. You will have seen last week the horrible case of 86-year-old granny Gloria Stevenson up in Sunderland, taking a little dog for a walk, going across the zebra crossing. Along comes 18-year-old stoned yob Billy Stoko on an illegal e-bike, smashes into her and kills her. kills her. He was sentenced to 6 years and 9 months. It means he'll be out in about 4 years. Gloria's furious family say that the sentence is an insult that has worsened their grief. I've got one more case for you. You're going to like this one. Cardiff Crown Court yesterday, 20-year-old Rashid Jama was handed an 18-month sentence for hate crimes against coppers, using extreme levels of violence, anti-Semitic abuse and attacking a man with a hammer after spitting at police officers, threatening to rape a WPC. This monster pleaded guilty to 11 serious offences. He was held in custody at Swansea Prison. When he turned up at court, the judge said, well, you've been in prison long enough now. I was going to give you 18 months, but you'll probably be released today or very, very soon. These judges... as you say, they are not really getting the memo here. We don't want this kind of leniency.
They are getting the memo, Kev. This is the memo Tony Blair wrote to them in 2005. Okay, the memo just says, you will get titles, you will get accolades, you will succeed as a lawyer, you will get more money, and you will get more fame and more grandeur and more status if you support DEI. That's all the memo says. And you know what? That was enough to corrupt them. Isn't that amazing? Because it's not some massive conspiracy. It doesn't require active, engagement. It carried on during the Conservative government who, at least on appearance, were rejecting all of this. It didn't matter. Quietly, behind the scenes, the cookie machine carried on making cookies because the Tony Blair cookie machine has been programmed to make a certain type of cookie. And that's what these people are. And good judges are now a rarity.
Here's what we need, Stephen, in my view. Let's remember these judges. I don't think they remember this, but we don't work for them. They work for the people. They work for us. We are, theoretically, their bosses. And yet we have no real recourse to these people. We have no way practically of punishing them, reprimanding them, sacking them. We need to make our judges far more accountable to the people. We need them to be frightened of their jobs and frightened that if they make a ludicrous decision like they did about these 3 rapists, they get sacked. But they know that nothing is going to happen to them, so they proceed with their bizarre, absurd leniency with impunity. That's got to stop.
It's got to stop, Kev. It's absolutely got to stop. I spent years obsessing and publishing and thinking about the word impartiality. I thought that was the cure to all the ills of our society. And I met somebody who actually, I rarely admit this, Kev, but who was brighter than me and cleverer than me. And the word is...
Yeah, that was me, wasn't it? Yeah.
The word is account. Well, you used it just now, but the word is accountability.
Yeah.
We need accountability back.
Yeah.
We're not going to fix this country without accountability. That's it. And you can't. The other thing so when you have young listeners and viewers who might feel despair, which I can completely sympathize with, but just know that once we get accountability back, you don't need 100,000 policemen, 1 million army people marching in the streets. Once you have the system designed towards accountability, self-interest means people behave themselves. And so self-interest has been used by Blair. I do finger him. I do point at him. Used by him to create an absolutely awful system. It is self-interest that propels these judges and these people who want to become KCs. I'm not a KC, Kev. Don't ever let anybody call me a KC because I don't want to be one under this system. Yeah. But it's self-interest that propels.
I wish you were. You should be a judge, Stephen. That's what we need.
I just not under this system. Never.
Well, okay. I'm going to start a new system, and under my new system, you will be accountable. But I'm going to appoint you as my first senior judge. Stephen, fantastic to have you on the show as always. Thank you so much. Come on again very soon. Stephen Barrett there, barrister and commentator, I think making his feelings fairly clear about judicial leniency and that shocking case down in Southampton. Coppers letting that poor kid die while arresting him as he choked on his own blood because somebody called him a racist. 03444991000. Next up in the studio, Peter Blexley, former Met Police detective, will join me to discuss that shocking case. That next, stay tuned.
Good morning to you. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Burgess. Breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley is in the studio. Thanks for coming in, Pete. Let's talk about this shocking case down in Southampton. Just to recap, Vikram Digwar, 23 years old, been found guilty at Southampton Crown Court of the vicious murder of university student Henry Novak. This was after Henry had been 18 years old. He'd been out celebrating to a nightclub. It was the end of term. He'd had less to drink than the legal driving limit, so he probably had about 1 pint or something. No question he was drunk. There's some kind of altercation. This guy, Vikram Digwar, produces an 8-inch ceremonial Sikh kirpan knife and stabs Henry 4 times. When he collapsed to the ground, coppers were by now called. When the coppers arrived, Digwar said, "Oh, he was racist toward me. Called me racist, subjected me to racial abuse," and immediately the coppers rounded on their new villain, Henry Novak, while he was on the floor begging for help as his lungs filled with blood. They handcuffed him and arrested him. Peter, your thoughts? I think these 2 coppers, for a kick-off, I think they need to be prosecuted. Actually, before I get your thoughts, let's have a quick look at what the temporary Deputy Chief Constable of Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police, Robert France, had to say.
What action is being taken in relation to the officers who handcuffed him?
We referred ourselves immediately to the Independent Office of Police Conduct the following day, and they've been independently investigating ever since. We are absolutely committed to acting on their findings. The officers are witnesses in that case. As I say, it's clear to me the circumstances were complex.
But that was despite Henry saying that he had been stabbed.
So Henry clearly says he's been stabbed, and it's quite clear that officers don't immediately understand that that's what's happened. Whilst he did have some injuries, that significant bleeding was internal. There was not a significant out of blood where Henry was. The pathologist is clear that that fatal wound was deep and internal. The bleeding was internal. And yes, despite that, there was nothing that officers could have done to save Henry. So this case is about officers who have limited information, far less information than we have now, who were lied to by Henry's killer on that call. Only one person is responsible for killing Henry, and that's the man who stabbed him that night.
Well, that's debatable. I would suggest that Deputy Chief Constable Robert France's excuses are outrageous. This poor kid is the victim of woke police insanity, and what France should be saying, instead of making excuses, he should just come out and say it. This was an appalling mistake by officers who failed to fulfil their duty to protect this poor kid who was dying.
Tragically and unforgivably, Henry Novak was the victim of racist, incompetent, useless police officers who chose to believe a brown man's words over a white man's words, based purely on the colour of their skin. That is racism. Henry Novak died as a result of appalling behaviour that he suffered at the hands of racist police. I asked Starmer, Rayner and all the others, are you going to take the knee tonight?
And what are you going to do about this? I mean, Robert France, the Deputy Chief Constable, the temporary one, let's hope he's very temporary, he's saying, oh, well, he'd been stabbed, but the worst wounds were internal. So he's like, he's been stabbed. They knew he'd been stabbed. 4 times, it turns out, by this 8-inch knife, and they arrest him because Digwa had used the magic word racist, racial abuse.
And Digwa had rung the police. It was him who rung the police, asked for the police when he rang 999 and got his complaint of racism in first. His entirely malicious, unfounded lie about suffering racism got it in first. Back in the day, a wise police officer came up with a system which so many of us followed successfully for years, and it was the ABC of policing. Accept nothing, believe no one, check everything.
Yeah.
And if those police officers had turned up and done exactly that, they would have checked Henry's claim that he'd been stabbed. They would have discovered that he was seriously stabbed. They would have been able to render first aid rather than handcuffing him. And, of course, they might have dealt with the situation more broadly better than they fundamentally did not. So, but now, of course, if you mention the ABC to the College of Policing, that centre of wokery, which is not fit for purpose, you mention that now, they say, oh, no, that's outdated, you can't possibly say that. And this comes in the week that, I kid you not, the College of Police have handed down directives about people's annual performance reviews when they need to focus on microaggressions that people might be using. You could not make this nonsense up.
What is a microaggression?
Yeah, rolling your eyes, perhaps. A little tut.
Oh, God.
A little sharp intake of breath.
Oh, God, I give up, Peter. I really do. Now, look, this is what I think. I think this should be, in my ideal world, this should be a wake-up call for the police. Every copper should be told, just if somebody says he's been racist towards me, as you just suggested, be sceptical. Be sceptical. It's quite clear that the young modern generation of coppers have a reaction, an immediate reaction. If someone accuses someone else, a person of colour accuses a white person of racism, that white person is in big trouble immediately. They believe the accuser and never the accused.
Because they have had loads of anti-racism training. This absolute drivel that has brainwashed them into exactly the sort of thinking that you've just described. Rather than turning up and going, right, let's investigate dynamically, swiftly, what's gone on here. Because let's not forget that the primary object of an efficient police is the preservation of life and the protection of property. Let's not forget that. That is still their fundamental core role, to preserve life, to protect people, to protect things. So they should have turned up, done that immediate investigation, but this is the calibre of so many of the frontline cops that we've got today.
Now, it's such a low calibre, isn't it? It's so ridiculous. I mean, so tragically ridiculous. There's this kid, he's been stabbed. He's begging for help. And Robert France, the temporary Deputy Chief Constable, said, well, what you don't understand is the worst of the bleeding was internal. Yeah. How could they have known? Come on! You've got to do better than this. Now, this should be a wake-up call to the police generally. I doubt if it will be, but I hope it will be. And in the meantime, of course, there's always this parroting of, we've referred ourselves to the Independent Police Complaints Commission, Well, they'll have to mark their own homework, don't they? Well, what I think these coppers who are, frankly, directly responsible for the death of poor Henry Novak, I think it must go beyond police discipline, police complaints. They should face prosecution, shouldn't they?
Well, we will have to see what the investigation turns up. But while we're talking about policing, let's not forget what an appalling reputation the Independent Office for Police Conduct has earned itself, rightfully so. Why are we not seeing today, now the trial is done, now the conviction has been secured, why are we not seeing the body-worn video of those officers? Show it to us now.
That's a good point, yeah.
And that Assistant Chief Constable with his mealy mouth, that is so deeply insulting, I would imagine, to the Novak family, to hear that temporary Assistant Chief Constable talking about the internal injuries. Utterly appalling, insensitive. He is truly not fit to wear the uniform.
Yeah, he's a disgrace as well. He said, you don't understand. You see, that most of the bleeding was inside. He had been stabbed, but the worst of the bleeding was internal.
Yeah, police officers get first aid training. They would know that.
Yeah, and also the court heard that this poor kid, Henry Novak, keen footballer, finance student, stabbed 4 times with this ceremonial knife. The court heard that he was unable to breathe as his lungs filled with blood, and he begged the officers for help. They ignored his pleas and placed him under arrest. He died less than an hour later. The court heard that. So Robert France is being, shall we say, economical with the truth here.
Just like George Francis, tragically, Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, you know. OK, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, you know. I mean, this is... We're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism. The Macpherson report was published decades ago when it branded the Met institutionally racist. All those decades, all those police chiefs, where have they got? They've got themselves in an even worse situation because those police chiefs are fundamentally useless and not fit for purpose. Policing should have a mantra, and one mantra only: do the right thing. In all that you do the right thing, do it properly, do it diligently.
Yeah, this guy is a victim of police wokery. He'll probably get one of those judges like the one who let the rapist go.
There you go.
He'll tell this Sikh guy, Digwa, I don't want to criminalise you, so off you go.
Yeah.
Honestly, folks, this is the end. 03444991000. Big thanks to Peter Blexley for coming in on this shocking story. We're going to take your calls next. 03444991000. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Taking your calls in just a little while. First, it's competition time. The FIFA World Cup 2026 is almost here. And thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, our friends at TalkSport are giving you the chance to be there. Adidas is sending you and a friend to Dallas to see England versus Croatia live on June the 17th with return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets and your very own Adidas official match ball trianda. Be at England's first game in the FIFA World Cup at one of the world's best stadiums. Are you ready to get that winning feeling? Here's how to enter.
Get ready for that winning feeling. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Texts and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 1st of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. See full terms and conditions at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. Full T's and C's at win.talk.tv.
Welcome back. I'll read some messages in just a little while. Got a very, very packed switchboard, as you can imagine. Let's go straight to Andrea in Essex. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Kevin.
Hi. What would you like to say?
2 points, if I could, please.
Please, go.
So, in my view, Starmer is just so devoid of what makes us human, Kev. On those 3 rapists, it's distressing. You know, where's the passion, the outrage?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. You know, you, me, all normal people, decent people, look at that case where the stupid judge let 3 vicious rapists walk free and we go, what the hell is going on? And that judge clearly does not feel what I would suggest is the natural fury that you should feel when you hear about 2 little girls who were raped at knife point. For God's sake.
Yes, I know. He's an absolute... Shut up, Starmer. You're an absolute twonk.
Yes, that's true. That notwithstanding, did you want to make another point? You said you want to say...
Yes, if I could, please.
Go ahead.
So, I'm a big fan of public humiliation in terms of deterrent...
You're a big fan of public humiliation,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So...
If it's deserved, yeah.
If you've been convicted of rape or sexual assault of anyone, you set up stocks. If they're still school children, it happens in the school playground. If it's at work, it happens in their workplace. If they're not in school or work, we put it in their street. And we cane them and throw rotten fruit and vegetables at them. And we put that judge with them.
Well, I'll take it with, you know, I'm not sure I agree with you generally, but I'd certainly put the judge in those stocks and throw rotten vegetables at him alongside you, Andrea, till my heart's content till the cows come home. So I'm with you on that one. Andrea, great call. Call me again. Andrea in Essex there. Let's go to Josie in Leicester. Hi, Josie. You want to talk about employment or lack thereof, unemployment?
Well, I want to talk about what I've been telling you for how many months I'm ringing you about the immigration level. So what we're going to do now, how we're going to clear this up, all the ones that have come here, and if they are doctors, engineers, provide your P60 for the 5 years that you've lived there or however long, and make that part of your argument case that you should stay here.
Hang on. So you got here with you're a doctor or an engineer?
No. What I'm saying is that will filter out if they're engineers, doctors, and they're high-end people that we need. Don't forget, we don't have to have them. It's what we need as our workforce.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you there. Yeah.
Right, and then as long as they've worked and paid into the system, and we need them as part of our NHS, fair enough, they can apply. But if we don't need them, then we can wheatle out all those people that are low skilled, no English, ghettos that have come
well, there's about 4.2 million of them. Boris let them in between 2021 and 2024. That's a lot of people to wheedle out.
Yes, I know.
I'm with you in principle, Josie, but it's not that simple, is it? You know.
Well, Well, it will be, because we have to provide our P60s if we need to go for some sort of application. They've come here, and I'm not joking, they've come here, they've also bought property, right? They have bought property. So they've taken that away from people.
Well, if they
people
bought property, then they're probably reasonably industrious, you know. I don't think most of them get social housing.
Some of the high-end ones have actually bought property.
Well, yeah. Well, what's wrong with that? I mean, you know, we don't actually mind. Well, I mean, doctors and engineers and lawyers and all that. That's okay for them to come, isn't it? Because they'll make a lot of money and they'll buy houses and contribute significantly to the economy. It's the low-skilled, low-paid ones, unemployed ones we have to worry about.
Yeah, they're the ones that have taken the jobs, like your DPD drivers or your delivery drivers.
Well, yeah, if you're lucky, too many of them don't work at all.
Well, in my area, I can only say for my area, because that's where I live.
I know, and you know about it in Leicester, don't you? Josie, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Excellent call. Josie in Leicester. That's the world according to Josie. Let's go to break. Back in a minute.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Go back to the phones in a second. This is a text message from Natasha. Something has gone so wrong in this country and the police when racism appears to top the list of crimes. What a twisted society we are that places a claim of racism above a dying person. Quite right, Natasha. I got that's the one that struck me earlier. Yeah, this is Margaret talking about Stephen Barrett. She said, what brilliant comments, well done, agree with you. Simi says, I've never seen Stephen so angry. He was very angry. Steve says, give Stephen a knighthood and get rid of Hermat and install Stephen as the Attorney General. That is a great idea. Simi, I've never heard Stephen so angry. Great show. and so on and so forth. So let's go back to the phones. Thanks for all the messages. Didn't get time to read enough of them, but do appreciate you sending them in. Now let's go to Tony in West Sussex. Hi, Tony.
Hi, just got a solution to the benefits problem.
Yeah.
Anybody earning £16,000 a year, they don't pay tax. Anybody above that pays 20%.
Right.
And I don't mean people on life support. I don't mean people on ventilators. I don't mean people on wheelchairs or who can't get around without the assistance of machines or carers. I don't mean them.
Yeah.
I mean the people with 8, 9 kids getting like £40,000-50,000 a year, and there's thousands of them.
What about there's a good one that we highlighted today, Tony. It's a new brand of welfare beneficiary, polygamists, people who married multiple times in foreign countries like Pakistan. They come here with 4 wives. They can claim £120 a week for each of their wives. Good, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. And you've got to ask yourself who started all this. You've got to go back to Blair and Brown and everybody else in between, Theresa May, a whole lot, right up to today. And I think when you finish an item on your tour, I listened to the whole show tonight. It's brilliant. You should finish with a sentence, and thank you very much, Labour Party.
Yeah.
Because they've been in power 2 years and they're doing nothing about it. Yeah. So thank you very much for doing nothing.
Well, thank you very much, Alan Milburn, old Labour dinosaur. He used to hang out with Tony Blair, coming back from beyond the political grave to tell us the country's gone terribly wrong because a whole generation of kids can't get jobs. Whose fault is that, Milburn? That would be you and Blair, wouldn't it? Unbelievable. Tony, good suggestion and a great call. Thank you for ringing. Tony in West Sussex. Let's go to Jerry in London. Hi, Jerry. You want to talk about this
Hello
shocking...
there, Kevin.
You want to talk about this shocking Henry Novak case?
Yes, Kevin. Yeah, it's... I'm really angry, but I'm not surprised because this has been going on for a while, And it's been hidden by the government. There's been quite a few of these incidents. There was one years ago in Kentish Town where a gang of Asians attacked a young white lad, stabbed him to death.
You mean this tendency for the police to always side with the people of colour who are claiming racism. Now, if they are being subjected to racial abuse, that's a bad thing. But this guy, Digwa, the Sikh murderer, he clearly knew the game and played the race card, and it worked a treat. They immediately started treating him like the hero, the victim, and poor Henry Novak, they arrested him, they handcuffed him while he was bleeding to death on the ground. It is astonishing.
Yes, well, the reason it doesn't surprise me is because I won't bore you long, but years ago I was in the army, so I grew up at a parachute regiment. So when I come out and was playing rugby, quite a lot of lads went into the police. And they were leaving. And about 20 years ago, I was talking to a mate of mine and said, why are you leaving, retiring early? He said, all they're teaching them, the first nick they want is a racist nick.
Yeah. No, you're right.
In their book.
No, the coppers, young coppers are told that, or advised that. Get yourself, if you can get yourself a few nicks under your collar, for racism, homophobia, transphobia, that'll be good for your career. I could tell you all about that, Jerry. It's something I will do one day.
I'll tell you what, I've actually had some of this myself.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was, but I got into an altercation with a couple of lads who weren't white.
Yeah.
And because it didn't quite go their way.
Yeah.
And the police
and you got blamed because they said you were a racist.
But they were gonna nick me. But because the girl I was with was black, she saved me from a nicking.
Yeah. Good. They told the truth. Well, I know what you mean, Jerry. Listen, Jerry, I've got to move on. Good call, though. Thank you very much, Jerry, in London there. Let's talk to Sam in Blackpool. Stephen Barrett, he was pretty worked up, wasn't he, Sam?
Oh, well, love him. Honestly, what a superstar. I think if he runs the justice system, we put Peter Blexley back in charge of the police.
Yeah, now you're talking.
And you can do the PR.
Okay.
It's like the dream
I'll be
thing.
the culture secretary. How about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, Jeremy Kyle somewhere in there, you know what I mean? But there's so much I could say. But Stephen Barrett, my daughter, as I explained to one of your colleagues, she's studying law.
Yeah.
And she wants to protect the innocent.
Yeah, that's right. Stephen's furious because the justice system British justice let that poor kid Henry Novak down. This week it's let the two victims of those three racists, those three rapists, it let them down. This British justice is turning into a woke, ludicrously lenient joke.
You are 100% correct. And as a mother of two daughters, well, I've got three daughters actually with a stepdaughter, but that's the worst thing you can contemplate.
Yeah, it means you're worried for you. You don't feel safe when you don't have a justice system. When you have a justice system that doesn't imprison rapists, then you are no longer a serious country, and you have a justice system that is making the streets dangerous, particularly for women and children. It's an absolute
You're 100% correct. And it's murder, rape and paedophilia. There should be massive penalties for.
Exactly right. Automatic in my view. Automatic in my view.
And I completely agree. And as for what happens to that poor young lad,
it's just such a shame.
This whole racism thing is, I've not got a racist bone in my body. I don't care who you are, but do what you want to do. But no, disgusting.
Yeah, with you, Sam. I'm with you, Sam. Thank you.
All those injuries.
It's just awful. Listen, Sam, really good call. Good to talk to you. I've got to move on. Thank you. Sam in Blackpool. Let's go to Matt in Cheshire. Hello, Matt.
Hi, good evening, Kev. It was just about your earlier conversation about the Boris wave.
Oh, God, yeah.
I've been sort of highly impressed with Kemi Badenoch in the last few weeks, thinking, wow, brilliant. Isn't she fantastic at PMQs? Isn't she aggressive and
She's
stuff?
Good. If you
Then I remember what the Conservative Party have done in the last 15 years, and I think, I'm not having this anymore. I'm not falling for this again.
Yeah, look, I think what you're getting at, Matt, if you agree that I've got your line of thought correct, it's this. Kemi Badenoch is actually a good performer. I think she's a very good politician, but she's the leader of the remnants of the Conservative Party. And what we discovered just before the last election, in the months and the years running up to the last election, was that for 14 years, this Conservative Party had lied, deceived us, kept it secret, and imported millions and millions and millions of legal, low-skilled, low-paid migrants, many of them unemployed. We found out that deception, particularly perpetrated by Boris Johnson, and the nation voted the Tories out of business, out of power, and I think to this day, and possibly forever, I don't think the British people will ever forgive the Conservative Party for what Boris Johnson, David Cameron, Theresa May, Rishi Sunak, all of them did to this country.
That's exactly right, Kev. I mean, I swore after that, when they lost, that I'd never vote Conservative, any of the three main parties ever again, and I will stick to that, regardless of how impressive and talented Kemi Badenoch is. She's still part of, like you say, the remnants of the betrayal. And it just, what I was thinking also is, that was just after COVID they let all those people in.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to mingle with each other for 2 years, 3 years, but we can let people from every corner of the earth pour into Britain not long after we've just opened up after COVID. How does that make any sense either?
Well, what Johnson did, Johnson was persuaded by the fact that after Brexit, we would need low-skilled workers and we could no longer get them from Europe, so we'd have to get them from elsewhere. He was also persuaded that if you get millions of these low-skilled, low-paid workers in from abroad, although they haven't got much money, they have got some, and they will spend that money and that will boost the economy. That's a total fallacy, a total lie. And what Boris Johnson, in fact, did to this country was land us with 4.2 million migrants who are just beginning to qualify for indefinite leave to remain, which means they have to be paid full benefits. What Boris Johnson did to this country, Matt, is going to cost us over the years, for the foreseeable future, hundreds of billions of pounds. Yeah. It was a catastrophe, frankly, by an idiot and a treacherous, deceitful party.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Kev, like you say, none of those people are ever going to be majorly beneficial.
No, they're just going to be a drag on the economy, which is exactly what they are. Listen, Matt, good call as always. Always good to talk to you. I've got to move on though. The show's over. Thank you for calling, Matt in Cheshire. Listen, there are lots of reasons, why I'd like the heat wave to end, but the main reason is Peter Cardwell might stop wearing shorts. How are you?
You're just very jealous of my pens. Let's face it. Just be honest, Gavin. Just be honest.
Jury's out on that.
You're only human. You're only human.
What's on your show, mate?
Lots, particularly about these ministers trying to hide these Mandelson messages.
Oh,
they
that's
were told
funny, isn't it?
It went through Parliament. They said, give us everything you need to know. And they said, oh no, some of the messages were